Where were you in the movie?
I am her assistant. Phyllis Italiano was my name. And I also am the one who's crying very hard in the opening scene with long black hair. Hey, look, it was 1979. You look great.
Look great.
But anyway, I don't know why the movie wasn't more of a success, because it certainly is a wonderful film. But I do know that she came down with breast cancer right after that. So maybe that was a distraction for both Anne and Mel.
What year was the film?
It was filmed 1979 to 19... it was actually began in February of 1980. And I happened to be living out there that year, which was why I got to work on the film.
How was it financed? How did it go from a project to a full...
It was a Brooks film. Mr. Brooks helped with it, and his office was at 20th Century Fox. It was shot at 20th Century Fox, but it's not a big budget film. I think it was made for under a minute, so it was not. And all of those people who were in it were obviously not people who had any reputation except for Dom and Anne. And even Ron Parry was just really beginning.
Is Anne your sister?
Pardon?
Is Anne your sister?
Yes,
Anne Bancroft?
my sister.
She sounds just like her.
Yes.
I'd like to know, I mean, I'm Italian American, and I get emotional watching this, even though it's not my family. Could you tell us how emotional you get and how it changes as you get older, your emotions as you watch the film? From the first time you made it with your sister, and now, so many years later when you watch it.
Well, yeah, you know, first of all, it's, you know, I was extremely close to my sister. She was 5.5 years older than me. She was more than just a sister. We had a very narcissistic, cold mother, and a very bossy older sister. So we sort of clung to each other. My father was very sweet and loving, but I would say that when we started on the project, of course it was, you know, it was wonderful and funny. The most delicious set you could ever want. I used to come home with trays from lasagna to feed my kids because I would be working late, and all of those pastries you saw, they were flown in from Ferraris. I mean, we really ate on that. I taught me how to make that omelet. So it was a wonderful experience, and we loved it. We loved every moment of being it. It was funny. I mean, Ron Parry, the guy who plays the brother, was just the most delightful guy on the set that you would ever have. Very sweet. And now when I see it, you know, of course there's a tremendous amount of feelings involved. Some of it is wonderful, and some of it is very heartbreaking. I mean, I see my mother and father. I see my children being seen. So I just kept telling my friend, "That's my daughter. That's my daughter over there. It's my son." You know, so it's a very emotional scene for me movie for me to watch. What I just wish is I wish it would get played on a big screen where you really can see it and really enjoy it. And she never directed again. She never directed again. It was too much of it wasn't her thing to direct. It was, she didn't like being in control. No, she didn't like being in control. So there's, you know, it was, it's wonderful to see that you all enjoyed it.
I have some more questions.
Yeah.
You said she took 2 weeks to work out the story.
Yes.
How many changes and, you know, different adaptations
Well, look, she was
through
married
the
to Mel
process?
Brooks.
Yeah.
So I'm sure she must have said, "Mel, I wrote this scene."
Yeah.
And Mel must have said, "Well, try that." You know, I mean, I never asked Mel about that, you know, but he's got to have given her some input.
Yeah, well, there's Lillian Hellman and Dashiell Hammett, and there had to be a lot of input in that relationship, so that's why I'm asking.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
Pillow talk at least.
But I do know that she did sit down and in 2 weeks did read it from beginning to end. So, you know, it sort of just, but there's so much of my family, so much of my family. The hair curl is like, that's my mother. You know, and the outfit she wore is my mother. You know, I mean, there was so much that was part of what we grew up with. That what she did was she just took our lives and put it onto film.
That's amazing.
Yes, yes. This lady worked with my sister on Golda. When she was doing Golda on Broadway, she worked with her on the lines and helped her to learn her lines.
Everybody here, I'm sure, knows what an incredible actress your sister was.
Yeah.
But I think that not so many people knew how incredibly funny she was. Because her husband being the funny man, really, I assume most people look toward him as the humorous one in the couple. I found her personally hilarious. Her timing, her wit, her humor, her able to expose herself in every way. The good rollers, etc. I just found her to be so very funny. It was such a pleasure to see this film after many years. I haven't seen it for a lot of years. To see her and to remember how funny she was. This is a funny movie.
Well, actually, in my family, she had the least of the sense of humor. I mean, well, my oldest sister, she was our really the one who made us laugh at the dinner table all the time. She was the funny one. But Anne loved a joke. She loved a joke. She also, by the way, loved this area that we are in. She's the one who got me out here, and you know. We swam. I mean, I was telling MJ that when I was out here and she was in Watermill and he had to go to London for the producers for a week, and I was taking care of her, and she had no hair from chemotherapy, and she said, take me down to the ocean. I took her down to the ocean, she went in the ocean. I said, well, you know, you look like Daddy. She had, you know, her ears were out, you know, stuff was just like my father. But,
Are you all Italian or?
no, we are Italian American. My parents were born here, but my grandparents were all from Italy. And,
I have a lot of friends down in Florida, and they're all, and I'm stunned, they're all Italian. And we have such a good time together. And when they look at me, they say, and I tell them stories about my mother-in-law, tough Irish people, unforgiving people. And, you know, I was thinking how nice, how sweet these women are, because they have all this love.
yeah, well, they're very tough too. So I'll tell you about if you don't believe it, I'll tell you about me someday. They're very tough. Well, women are very tough. Italian women are tough.
Now, my mother was a queen, and I always step aside so
Oh,
they
my
can get
mother
to the
was
man.
By the way, my mother just passed away 100.
Did she make the Smuckers?
Huh?
Did she make the Smuckers?
She made
label?
no, but my mother did make that jam, apple pine. She would put apple pine when she sent you her jam. She was quite a woman.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Now, how did Anne react to the final cut of this film? Was she satisfied? Or did she feel that she never wanted to direct again because there was something in
Well,
this
there were
film?
things that she didn't like, but mostly it was, you know, in those days, what we would do is, when we shot in the morning, it was also taped, and you would watch what you did. And if things, you know, didn't come out the way she liked, there was nothing you could do. You were on a limited budget. You know, you had to pray. And there were people she didn't like in their acting, you know, and I look at them now and I I know that she didn't like their outfit. She never liked the doctor. She didn't like Anita. She didn't like that woman, you know. She loved Renata Vati, the one who was the mother, you know, she was great. By the way, most of these people who were in this film are really from Brooklyn.
Yes,
They're not.
yeah.
They're not from the Bronx, you know. They're actually, even Estelle Reiner, who was, of course, Carl's wife, who did that very famous line later on in her life, you know. She was from Brooklyn too. They were most of them
They're
from
from
Brooklyn.
Coney Island, correct?
Pardon?
Coney Island.
Yes, yes, and you know, it's amazing. Most of them are gone. Most of them are gone, except for Candy and Salva Scusa, the one who was saying, "Oh, take me with you." And by the way, they did behave that way. They really did. When somebody died, they carried on. Not like today, where we all are very subdued. Those days, people let it out. It was probably wise too. Yes?
Did your parents read books or resort to looking at how to run their homes a little calmer than all this excitement and yelling and drama, and they all get so swung into it that it's hard to see if
My
they're going to
parents
make
were
out.
so busy supporting us.
Yeah.
My father was a pattern maker, which is the
That's
engineer
right.
in the dress business. He went to school for 8 years, 3 nights a week, and didn't get home till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And ate his dinner. So I mean, we were in a small apartment in the Bronx, you know. And, we went to Christopher Columbus, St. Raymond's Avenue. You know, I don't know.
Was that your house one time? We have a friend in common when we were grade school, I think.
What's the plan?
Claire Slaughter. I went to Catholic school, you guys went to public
Yes,
school.
we did. Well, I went to Catholic school, but I used to run away. I didn't like what those nuns were. Take a nap, forget it.
Santa Maria Church.
Yes. St. Raymond, Santa Maria, you're right.
You just answered one of my questions. You were brought up in the Bronx.
Yes.
And did Anne go to Christopher Columbus High
She
School?
went to Christopher Columbus High School. She graduated in 3.5 years. And then went to the American Academy of Dramatic Art. Now, I gotta tell you, my mother was such an ambitious woman that she, I mean, first, can you imagine some Italian Catholic girl wanting to be an actress? I mean, they used to live, the Italianos, that's my father's family from Brooklyn. They would live. Oh yeah, your daughter's going to, what are you kidding? She's gonna be an actress? My mother wrote to the Encyclopedia Britannica to find out where my sister should go for training. And they told her the American Academy of Dramatic Art, where she was on it, by the way, a couple of years ago. As a matter of fact, I saw Arthur there, you know, and of course they were like this.
When I went to Christopher Columbus, and I had a world geography teacher had her picture, beautiful picture in the
Who was
classroom.
that? What teacher?
Mr. Krause, I don't know.
Of course I know Mr. Krause, I had him too.
Is he still alive? I don't think so.
I was president of Christopher Columbus High School
Oh, you
while I was there.
were.
See, I was the political one.
He loved her. He had her picture up in the room, and he told everybody she was my student. And then another thing, I went to, I grew up in the Bronx. I went to a funeral of a little baby, Italian family, 6-month-old, died. And the mother was like picking him up almost, you know, very emotional, just like what you showed. The same kind of emotion. It would just go through you, you know, like really a lot of feeling and emotion.
How do you, did you see Marty? I always thought Marty, the movie with Ernest Borgnine,
Yes,
I always thought that was sort of real Italian as opposed to the gangster stuff. But
yes.
would you think those two?
I agree. I think they are much more indicative of the Italian-American experience. As a matter of fact, I belong to a group called the National Association of Italian-American Women. My friend Nora Ferrari, maybe you joined this group. And they were honoring Scorsese and De Niro and all those people. And I got so angry. I was pissed. I couldn't think. they had a retrospect on her in the city at the Lincoln Center last March. And some guy from Yonkers came, where my family moved to, came to me and said, "Do you know your sister's the first Italian-American actress?" I didn't know that. I did not know that. I know Ida Lupino, but Ida Lupino is English Italian, not Italian-American. I know, of course, Alan Alda's father, Robert Alda, but he was the male. And sure enough, he gave me the website. I went on, and my sister was the first Italian-American actress to reach stardom. So I wrote to these people at this association and said, "Hey, when are you going to honor my sister?" You know, and they are. They are going to honor her in January, so or December, I believe it's going to be. So they'll be seeing these movies again. I say the same thing. You got to show Fatso, because Fatso is truly the one that shows the way Italian Americans really work.
You said she did another project besides Fatso. That she didn't. Oh, maybe I misunderstood. She did not just. This was just the one.
This is
maybe you said that.
No. She wrote another one called August, and which never went anywhere. But she was working on one, as a matter of fact, which I have. You know, there's such a tremendous love that I have for her. I have the script saved that she was working on. It was called Loving Kindness. I don't know if it will ever be made into anything, but I have all of those things saved. When he was selling the house in Watermill, he called me and said, "Phyllis, you empty it, and then bring a moving truck and everything is yours." Well, that was some deal. It took me about 4 months of no bathroom, with no water, driving a water mill, taking everything out. But, you know, I'm very grateful in the long run, because I have a lot of very special things that she and I, because I helped her with her house when she was first moved there, and, you know, these things that we love together. And so I now have them in my house. So, anyway.
And you know what she did? She, when the producers was a $100 ticket, she invited her local priest, John Fraser.
Oh, yes.
You know John?
Of course I do.
It's a funny man.
Yes, of course I know.
But I thought that was so, everybody wanted the ticket,
Yes.
but she gave it to him, and he was like, couldn't
Father
believe it.
Fraser.
Sat right there, yes.
Still with my oldest sister, Joanne.
Yeah.
John, he's very friendly with.
What is her son doing now? Your nephew?
My nephew Max was here and lived in New York for a long time, and then after she died, he did move to LA and back to LA. His wife was from here. She lived long enough to see her grandchild. Wrote a song for him in the hospital, practically on her deathbed. But she did see him. He was born in March. He died in June. And he is a writer. He wrote the Zombie something or other, and then World War Z. And you know, he does college campuses and stuff like that. But he also is a pretty rich kid. Doesn't do a lot. You know.
Just worry that the money ruins them.
He actually looks a great deal like my family, thank God. Not like that.
He needs his father's talent.
Well, I think his mother was just as talented as my brother-in-law, and so.
She was perfect for him because, as you say, she wasn't funny, but he was.
Well, she wasn't funny, but she wasn't that outrageous funny like he was. He was very funny.
But she appreciated him, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, she did. She encouraged him. She was the one who told me to go and write the music for the producers. So, without that, yes.
Is there anyone here who knew her?
Is
who
there,
might have known her,
is there anyone here?
who might have known her.
I don't know.
I knew her
You know her?
in the 50s. She was, and you might remember where she was. It was Studio 57. She was actually performing it in East Harlem. I was a caterer for that studio at that time, and she was performing there. Studio 57. She was Anne Marno or Anne Italiano.
Oh, Anne Marno,
She
yes,
was
that
Anne
was her
Marno or
name
Anne
when she
Italiano.
first was
I
discovered.
passed her by, I was dropping some food off. I passed her by and I took a double. Boy, she reminded me of my wife. I went over to her and I said to her, I said, just watch you perform. You're going to be a success. Stay with it. She said, hang in there. You are going to be good, I said to her. And with that, a 6'2" good stagehand saw me talking to her. And when I walked away from her, he came over and he said, Bill, he said, I'd like to date her. Look at the size of you, you're 6-something, look at her. I said, I'll ask her if she would go out with me. I walked over and I said, see the big guy, good-looking guy? And I used to cash his check in my place. And I knew all about him, wonderful guy. And I said, he wants to take you, he wants to date you. I said, I tell him you're dating? She said, yeah, tell him I'm dating. That was it.
She was
So I
5'6",
stayed from Mel Brooks.
Yes.
And Mel Brooks is a Kaminsky. And my brother-in-law is a Kaminsky. They're both from me, Mintz. They may be related.
Could be, could be. Okay.
Thank you.